And one of the coolest advancements that has happened in this domain has been the use of graph neural networks. So imagine the AI drawing a giant. So really, the near future is a world where humans and AI collaborate seamlessly. Together, they are smarter, quicker. Institutions globally are adopting supervised learning models that are trained on millions of labeled examples of both fraud.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Why Involve Women in Tech series. This is the podcast where we explore bold ideas, breakthrough technologies, and people shaping the future of work. I'd like to introduce you all to our sponsor, YE Technologies. They are a design led AI powered engineering partner that helps enterprises accelerate digital transformation and achieve measurable business impact. As a Microsoft Solutions partner, YE brings deep expertise in front end engineering, application modernization, AI deployment, and automation. You can learn more at our website wine.com. Moving to today's episode, we are diving into a high stakes topic, AI in fraud risk management. This is where real time decisions, data complexity, and customer trust collide. Joining us is Shweta Arora, Vice President at JP Morgan Chase. She is a seasoned technology leader with over a decade of experience across banking, fintech, and consulting. Shweta has led high-impact digital transformation initiatives, managed large technology teams, and built solutions at the intersection of innovation and business. She is also a strong advocate for women in STEM and actively mentors the next generation of tech talent. So let's get started. Shweta, with so much noise in transactional data, what do you think? How does AI help distinguish fraud risk from real positives, and how is that actually evolving is what we would like to understand.
Okay, sorting real fraud from false alarms in transactional data is like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is not static, it's constantly growing and changing. So think of all the legitimate transactions that flood into a bank every single second. That's what we call noise, and which is basically nothing but tons of data points that on their own might look suspicious, but they really aren't. The signal, however, is the actual fraud that's hiding quietly among all that noise. And the challenge that we face right now and the art is actually teaching AI to listen closely enough to be able to catch that whisper. And AI does this beautifully through machine learning. So imagine training a model like teaching a detective. You feed it stories of past fraud, patterns, and behaviors. So it learns what criminal behavior looks like. And this is what we call supervised learning. Similar to this, we have something called anomaly detection, which is like giving the detective the ability to spot something weird, even if it has never seen it before. And these models improve the precision over time. Now, AI, especially machine learning, is becoming pivotal in helping distinguish these signals from the noise. Institutions globally are adopting supervised learning models that are trained on millions of labeled examples of both fraud and legitimate behavior. So, over time, these models get progressively more precise. They learn to identify the unique fingerprints of different types of fraud while ignoring the irrelevant variations, which is the noise. And one of the coolest advancements that has happened in this domain has been the use of graph neural networks. So imagine the AI drawing a giant map connecting accounts, devices, merchants, IP addresses, uncovering fraud rings like a spider web that humans simply just can't see or fathom. Plus, fraudsters often do these test transactions, these micro events, just which are just a few cents at a time to see if they can, get away with these and they can exploit some of the loopholes in the fraud processes. Today's AI can spot even those tiny ripples and it can stop much bigger fraud waves even before they start. And there's
Okay.
also exciting research happening around reinforcement learning, where AI systems learn from their own mistakes continuously without needing us to constantly intervene in the process. So, the way the trend is evolving, looking ahead, the way I see the next evolution is all about AI transparency. So, soon these systems won't just be flagging transactions or saying, hey, this transaction looks fishy. They'll also be explaining
Uh-huh.
why that transaction looks fishy and also suggest what the next best step is to tackle the problem. What it means is that fraud teams can act much faster and with much more confidence than ever before. So, really, the near future is a world where humans and AI collaborate seamlessly. Together, they are smarter, quicker, and ultimately making fraud a lot harder to pull off than ever before.
Mhm. So, since the time we have been hearing about AI, so just had a question in mind. So, how much of I would say participation, or I would say put it in this manner, uh, as they say, human in the loop. So, what is the kind of ratio that we see? So, once you have that AI or machine learning model into your system, how much of human intervention is required there?
No, I don't think we are there yet. So, I personally feel having a human in the loop is essential for fraud risk management, particularly in banking, because AI models, while fast and scalable, they can still miss nuanced patterns or, generate false positives that require judgment and context. So, human experts help validate complex cases, they help reduce errors and ensure fair, ethical decisions, especially amid evolving fraud tactics and regulatory demands. So combining AI speed with human oversight delivers the best of both worlds: proactive fraud detection without compromising trust or customer experience. In short, I would end by saying, with growing sophistication of fraud, human expertise remains critical for keeping banking safe and smart.
Absolutely. So no matter what human angle is there, and it will still be there till the time AI takes it on its own.
Absolutely.
So that was really insightful for people who are not from the banking sector, especially. So Shweta, that brings me to the next question. So fraud prevention isn't about technology; it's about user trust. How do you strike that balance between aggressive AI-led monitoring and maintaining a seamless customer experience?
Well, I feel this question really gets to the heart of what makes fraud prevention so challenging to begin with. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to protect people's money and data, but we absolutely don't want to get in the way of their day to day banking experience and activities. So it's a very delicate balance between vigilance and convenience. Think of this problem like this: fraud detection is basically a security guard at a VIP club. You don't want them stopping every regular customer at the door asking for ID 3 times. That's annoying and it drives people away. But at the same time, you also don't want them bathing in any shady characters. So, what's the trick here? And as a customer, also, you've probably experienced this yourself in your day to day banking activities. Those moments where you are asked to complete a CAPTCHA while logging in or authenticate via multi factor authentication, or worse, sometimes when a perfectly legitimate transaction is declined simply out of caution. These are classic examples of what we call user friction. And while these measures are absolutely necessary to keep fraud at bay, too much friction risks frustrating customers, eroding their trust, and even pushing them to competitors. So, how do we really avoid being overzealous? And that's where I feel AI flips the script and helps strike a balance. So it's no longer about blanket security checks on every transaction. It's more about smart, context aware decisions. For example, say if you're logging in from your usual coffee shop with your usual device, then the algorithm says, okay, you're cool, go ahead, let the transaction process through. But if suddenly you're buying a beachfront property from a completely new country at midnight, that's probably a red flag. And it gets even better. So AI watches how you type, how you swipe, how you even hold your phone. These are behavioral metrics that are like your digital signature. So it's basically invisible security that feels like magic. There's no cumbersome passwords, no endless captchas. It's just seamless, silent trust building because it respects the customer's privacy. And talking about privacy, I feel that's the biggest game changer to strike that balance between security and a seamless customer experience, which is transparency and education. Customers really want to know why they are being asked these security questions. It's about partnership, not policing. So when the bank explains the why to the customers, they feel respected and they feel invited to be part of the defense team. And looking broader, the regulations like GDPR in Europe and emerging Gulf and MENA data laws, they aren't really hurdles. They're proof that privacy and security belong together. So these are strong protections that help build stronger trust with the customers. At the core of our approach, the philosophy is simple. Security should be as invisible and effortless as possible without sacrificing on the safety. This means investing in smarter AI that adapts, educating users, and always thinking from the customer's perspective. That's the balance, blending cutting edge technology with human empathy.
Coming to my third question, can you share an example where AI made a measurable impact in fraud detection initiative? Something that changed the game operationally or rather strategically.
Um, well, one standout project that I can think of from my own personal experience was developing an AI powered fraud risk solution using graph neural networks. And I briefly mentioned this earlier as well. The problem that the organization was facing was that organized fraud rings were cleverly exploiting onboarding processes and the loopholes that existed there, causing significant losses and operational strain on the bank. And traditional detection methods couldn't really catch these hidden complex networks. How we tackled this problem was we built a customer knowledge graph, a kind of map that connects customers, accounts, devices, IP addresses, transactions to reveal relationships that wouldn't simply be obvious otherwise. And this AI driven approach allowed us to detect fraud rings with far greater accuracy than ever possible before. And the results that we saw with the solution were remarkable. We managed to reduce organized fraud at onboarding significantly, and it resulted in tens of millions of dollars saved annually for the bank. It also significantly lowered manual investigations, so fraud teams could focus their efforts and their resources more effectively. This AI solution also became a blueprint for strategic fraud detection in the broader organization. But what really made this initiative successful, apart from the brilliant technology, was the strong collaboration between cross functional teams, our product managers, data scientists, fraud analysts, legal and compliance teams. These teams work closely, continuously refining the solution to align with both business goals as well as regulatory requirements, all while keeping the customer experience seamless. And this project really demonstrated how a well designed AI solution can transform fraud risk management from a reactive exercise to a proactive competitive advantage.
So, you've led large scale digital transformation across banking and fintech. What do you think are the biggest mindset shifts leaders need when integrating AI into fraud risk systems?
Well, the biggest shift for leaders integrating AI into fraud risk isn't simply plugging in the technology, but it's also rewiring how they think about risk and control to begin with. A lot of old school fraud detection was very reactive. It was rules based, rigid, and waiting for fraud to hit before chasing it. To truly unlock AI's potential, leaders need to champion a move from that reactive stance to a more proactive, intelligence led approach. What that means is trusting AI to not simply flag what's already known as fraud, but also to be able to identify emerging subtle patterns. And even when the system isn't always perfectly transparent at first glance. So, the real mindset shift that I see happening is going from an I need to control everything to I need to collaborate with AI as a learning partner. And I've seen this firsthand also in a lot of organizations, how the fear of AI's black box nature can hold back teams. It's understandable, when decisions affecting millions of customers come from complex models, there's a natural hesitation to fully trust them without clear explanations. That's why what I feel is explainability has to be baked into these AI systems, enabling fraud analysts and compliance teams to understand why a transaction is flagged, boosting confidence, and enabling smarter human machine collaboration. So that's one. And the second biggest challenge the leaders are currently facing, or the mindset shift that they need to make, is smashing silos. A lot of organizations currently work in silos, but AI driven fraud detection must unite cross functional teams and responsibilities. IT architects, risk managers, data scientists, compliance, our frontline fraud teams. Each of these groups brings unique perspectives and priorities, and aligning them ensures that AI solutions are not just technically sound, but they're operationally effective and compliant. So, without that cross team trust and alignment, even the most brilliant AI solution it won't deliver the results that we expect it to. So, leaders have to think in ecosystems, not in silos. And from my own experience, I remember a project where the fraud team, they started out skeptical when we were building an AI driven solution. And they were seeing these alerts generated by the model as noise rather than true signals. But as we coached the model and involved the fraud team also in refining the model by taking their feedback, they also shifted their mindset. And from doubters, they became true co-creators for the project. That pivot actually unlocked huge gains for the organization. And apart from these mindset shifts, one practical lesson which I feel leaders need to embrace is experimentation. So, AI projects don't really succeed overnight. Leaders must foster a fail fast, learn fast culture with minimum viable product mind, wherein they're launching small, testing widely, and iterating pretty quickly. So basically, early wins that help them build momentum and trust. So, the key takeaway, what I would call out is that leaders need to lean into AI's power with curiosity and patience, and they need to build trust through transparency. They need to let teams understand why AI flags something and embrace a culture that learns fast and adapts even faster. Because at the end of the day, AI isn't just changing tools and technology, it's also changing how we lead risk.
So it's not about just AI learning things and then improvising or evolving. It's about human mindset and the leaders' mindset that also will evolve gradually and will change according to time. So it's a two-way process that I see. But then, having said that, I see there is another interesting side of Shweta, which talks about mentoring. So, as someone passionate about mentoring women in tech, what advice would you give to early career women looking to break into domains like AI, risk, and financial services?
That's something that's really close to my heart. As someone who's navigated roles across some major banks, I know firsthand that the road into AI, risk, and financial services isn't always smooth for women. But I would say that it's incredibly rewarding. Early in my career, I distinctly remember being the only woman in a project team tasked with launching a new fraud prevention solution. I was really intimidated at first, and honestly, I hesitated to voice my ideas in those early meetings. But what changed things for me and what really helped me along the way was the encouragement I got from a mentor. She told me, don't wait to be invited to the conversation, just start contributing. So that's my first tip to anybody who's right now navigating a similar path. Speak up even when it feels daunting. Often, your perspective is exactly what the room needs at that time. Beyond that, a few more things that have helped me in my career journey and learning has been which I try to pass on to other women as well, is network strategically, and that does not mean networking just upwards. Some of my best learning and opportunities came from connecting with peers and people outside my immediate circle, especially in the cross functional projects I was a part of. Additionally, what I find has been a true game changer is finding mentors. Having experienced leaders and peers who guide you through challenges, share insights, and really truly champion your growth turns what once seemed impossible and unattainable into something truly achievable. That's why I strongly encourage early career women to seek out mentors and supportive communities. They're simply invaluable to your growth. And women are right now shaping conversations that matter about ethics in AI, customer empathy, and fairness in decisioning. But we still need more diverse voices. So if you're starting out, don't wait until you feel 100% ready. Stay visible and go after projects that push your comfort zone, that stretch you out. We need more women designing the algorithms and making the decisions that will define the future of finance and technology. Your ideas and choices can genuinely help shape a fairer and more inclusive industry. So I will end by saying be bold and stay curious.
So that's about mentoring, Shweta. But if our viewers have queries, or if they want to reach out to you for maybe some insights, how do they reach out to you?
Yes, of course. If anyone has any questions, need any advice, if they're facing any challenges they feel I can help with, I'm easily accessible through LinkedIn. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn and just send me a DM.
Thank you very much, Shweta, for being on this show. It was really insightful for us, and I am sure it will be insightful for our viewers. And having said that, your mentorship aspect, I am sure viewers will want to reach out to you to get insights on topics which are related to AI, fraud, risk management, and banking. So thank you very much for being on the show. We truly appreciate your time and the insights that you have shared. Thank you very much, Shweta.
Thanks a lot for having me, Mohan. It's been a wonderful conversation. These were some really pertinent and important questions that needed to be answered. And as we've explored today, the fight against fraud in banking and payments is evolving fast, with AI and data analytics leading the charge. From smarter detection models and seamless customer experiences to the human stories behind innovation and resilience, it's clear that technology alone isn't enough. Success comes from collaboration, transparency, continual learning, and bringing diverse voices to the table. So, whether you're a tech leader, a fraud analyst, or someone aspiring to break into this space, one thing stands out: the future of fraud risk management will depend on our ability to balance innovation with trust, stay agile in the face of new challenges, and empower every voice to help design and defend better financial systems. So let's keep championing security, inclusion, and impact, because together we are shaping a safer and smarter financial world. That's all I have for today. Thanks for having me here.
That brings us to the end of today's episode of Why Involve, part of our Women in Tech series. A big thank you to Shweta Arora for sharing her expertise and perspective on leading with AI in fraud risk management. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we continue exploring the people and ideas shaping the future of work. This is Why Involve, powered by Why Technologies, where we engineer transformation. Until next time, stay curious and keep innovating.